Jobless claims?
We're moving right on. Former Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson was using heavy-handed tactics to pressure bank CEOs to take TARP money. Here's a quote. Quote, "We don't believe it is tenable to opt out because doing so would leave you vulnerable and exposed. And if a capital infusion is not appealing, you should be aware your regulator will require it in any circumstance." It's also important to know, if you look at the actual document, that this was edited by Tim Geithner as well. So we can't hang this all on Hank Paulson. Anyway, were they both justified is the question we're asking. Let's bring in Tom Fitton. He is president of Judicial Watch. They filed the Freedom of Information Act requesting to gain access to these documents. CNBC Steve Leisman joins us as well. Tom, let me start with you.
Yes.
You know, were they justified in forcing the banks to take this money, even though the ones who didn't want it and believed they didn't need it?
Well, they don't show any justification in the documents they produce to us. They talk about a stress on the financial system, and obviously you have all done some reporting as to what that stress actually was. But it's still very vague as to what we were fighting back in those supposedly dark days. And, you know, the question is, how is it they go about doing what they do under authority of the government? And these documents indicate it was really a lawless, thuggish enterprise. Well, and Paulson co-hosted this meeting. Yeah. 3 of the 4 people in that meeting who were running it are still in government, including Geithner, Ben Bernanke, and Sheila Blair.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it's important, and we have the documents here looking through them, one of the reasons it's important to see this in print is because as these CEOs say that they don't want their, compensation limited, or maybe it's not fair because you know what, they didn't want the TARP money in the first place. Here we can see that they were really forced into taking it, a lot of them. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be clear here. First of all, I want to thank Judicial Watch for the work it does. We all benefit from this. They make the documents available to everybody. It's a real and sincere and important public service. I do want to point out, in this one case, the major issue here, I believe we knew at the time when it came out, and I'm reading here from my script to hear the inside story. This is back at the time it came out. It was a bit like a shakedown, a bit like a good cop, bad cop routine. Then I point out here, the meeting begins with Paulson playing the heavy, explaining why the deal must be done, and then meeting participants describe it as a take-it-or-take-it offer. So we knew it at the time, which leads to the question, should they have done it? I believe, and I don't know what the law is here, that a regulator has the right to demand that the regulatee, the bank in this case, has more capital.
No, not under this, Steve. I'm sorry.
I believe they do,
I do not believe that. I think, Tom, the great service you've done here is to point out the cram down, jam down. This was the beginning of command and control economy. The banks didn't want this money. Bill Kovacevic of Wells Fargo spoke up, but other people in that meeting, we are led to believe, spoke up. And I just want to tell you, Tom, my view, this TARP capital purchase program was a lousy idea from day one. The FDIC guaranteed deposits.
It stabilized the banking system, Larry.
I beg your pardon. It had nothing to do with it. I say the FDIC guarantees the deposits. I say the FDIC guarantees of interbank loans. I say the Fed liquidity injections.
They did that.
TARP thing. TARP is a corrupt program. It has taken the rights of shareholders away, and it's trying to control banks. And it was started under Henry Paulson and George W. Bush.
It wouldn't have been banks to destroy,
This
Larry.
had nothing to do with saving the banking system.
You were on the brink, Larry.
All this had to do was government exercising muscles and penalizing private enterprise.
Larry, you don't think banks would have gone under without this money? You don't think a bank like Citi would have gone under?
Insignificant compared to the loan guarantees and the Fed inject. The Fed put $1.5 trillion into the economy.
Hey, guys,
this was peanuts.
Guys,
peanuts.
First of all, we didn't know. The CEOs said they were pressured, but of course they're going to say that.
You're right.
Now we have government confirmation, and if it was on the up and up, why did the government tell us in February they had no documents about this meeting, which was an obvious lie?
That's another issue.
Now they're withholding.
Now they're withholding
Geithner's edits of these talking points.
I agree. That's a problem. They should not do that. But I will point out the system.
Well, it shows it implies
the
something was wrong to begin with.
Well, where do you get this?
Steve Leisman, you are rewriting history.
I am not rewriting
history. Yes, you are. TARP was supposed to purchase toxic assets,
and they
not jam money to take over the banks and tell them to set compensation and mergers and acquisitions.
Larry,
it was a decision made on the fly with no good thinking behind, and we are paying the price.
The problem right now is not what they did back then. The problem is they changed the rules since and have made it it made it difficult for them to get out of it.
Government,
That's
Steve.
really the problem with
Steve, welcome to dictatorial
I don't disagree, Larry.
This is a new world order. It's called jamming down the throats of private companies.
You impugn the motives of the folks here, Larry.
I do.
And my point is, why in God's name
George W. Bush ever made?
Why would they ever want to give $125 billion of money to the banks if it was not in the pursuit of saving the banking system and the economy?
I think Larry has an answer for that because they wanted to control the banks.
Right.
Henry Paulson wants to control the bank. Who are you talking about? George Bush, Henry Paulson want to control the bank? I thought that was the Obama criticism. Now you're criticizing the Republicans.
Yes, I am. I'm criticizing Bush.
And Henry
I'm criticizing Paulson.
They didn't want to control the banks.
Slope towards command and
Henry
control.
Paulson and George Bush did everything they could to not control the banks.
I beg your pardon.
And they probably would have done better if they had done it sooner.
And I want to make the point that in terms of so-called saving the banking system, the FDIC guarantees of deposits and of interbank loans and the Fed's guarantees of money market funds, those were things that saved the system.
And the capital injection.
You know what? Was puny and insignificant and opened the door towards socialism. That's all it is. Command and control.
You know, and the government really didn't know what the government didn't know what it was doing.
Right, it was made on the fly.
The chief of staff, the documents show the chief of staff.
Henry Paulson.
The chief of staff.
Got to get out.
Wrong guy, Larry.
Let me just say we've
had
a lot of good political cross-dressing on this show this morning, and I want to say that it is my great pleasure. Unfortunately, when President Bush and Paulson, the Republican side, got it wrong, I am more than happy to criticize them because I don't like government command and control, no matter who is doing it. Power Lunch is coming up.